back to The Progenitor. This is the show where we go over a director's entire filmography, talking about themes, shots, pacing, and give a brief review, all within 30 minutes, so let's get started. And with this film, we are traveling back to the past, 500 years into the past to be exact, with 1492 Conquest of Paradise. It's 500 years because this movie was released in 1992. Anyways, already have a problem with this movie. Why have such a long title? Can it just be 1492 Columbus Day or something like that? You know, maybe Columbus or Voyage of Columbus. I mean, what does Conquest of Paradise even mean? Was it paradise? I mean, it might have been Christopher Columbus's paradise in his mind because he found it and he feel like he achieved something. So, boom, paradise. But I mean, there were natives that were after him in the second half of the film. So, trying to kill him, I'm not sure that's paradise, but we'll move forward. The new world in which this paradise was shot in Costa Rica. There were 10 major sets built, and they had to deal with alligators, scorpions, and poisonous snakes. Now, again, I ask you, what kind of paradise is this? But let's continue on with some more of the production. The areas in Spain that they shot in were Cáceres, Trujillo, Seville, and Salamanca. And as you can tell, I am not a Spaniard, so forgive me for butchering those cities if I butchered the names. But moving on. So they did make replicas of the Santa Maria and the Pinta, as well as the Nina. Santa Maria and Pinta replicas were created by Square Sail in Britain, while the Nina was constructed in Brazil by the Columbus Foundation. The Santa Maria and Nina sailed from Britain to Costa Rica, arriving on December 10, 1991, where they joined the ships with the Nina. I'm going to get into the film just a little bit, not too much, but we'll get into them a little later with the themes. Altogether, this film is a joy to watch. It's a beautiful film. The shots are perfect. It's kind of like a wonderful travelogue. The island life is very, very interesting. But what I really find lacking in this film is the soul of traveling, just the struggle you have to go through to get to a new land. Now, if I can be exact, I would tell you guys to check out two movies by Werner Herzog. One is called Aguirre, the Wrath of God, or check out Fitzcarraldo, or do yourself a favor and watch them both because they're both classics. What these films have are the struggles of reaching new lands, or the struggles of creating new cities, or even an opera house in the middle of the jungle, which was Fitzcarraldo. And in this film, 1492, it doesn't seem to have all the struggles. It doesn't have the struggles on the seaward journey. There is a possible mutiny, but it's ended very quickly. The next scene, actually, it ends. But I think the interesting thing is a group of people going on a journey, not knowing if they're actually going to arrive. And they have a leader, Columbus, who they don't even trust. And they don't even know if he's sane or if he's crazy. So I really feel like they could have spent a lot more time on the boat in the beginning of the creation of the city and spent more time on that, showing the struggles, and then it would have been an amazing film. At this time, it's not quite there, but as I said, it is a wonderful, beautiful film to watch. Now we're going to go ahead and go on to the credits. Oh, and let me remind everyone, this is a spoiler-filled podcast. So if you haven't seen it, like I said before, watch it. I believe it's still on Amazon Prime. And if you didn't find it there, iTunes, buy it. Actually, I'm not sure if you want to, because it's probably not worth the $14.99 or $17.99. But if that Ridley Scott group pack is on sale, pick it up. Anyways, let's go to the credits. The film was directed by, of course, Ridley Scott, produced, of course, by Ridley Scott as his second produced film. And he had a producing partner named of Alan Goldman, who executive produced Casino for Martin Scorsese. And I just have to shout this movie out because I think it's a brilliant title for a film, The Blonde with Bare Breasts. And I spelled bear with Bear like the animal, but I'm sure it really is Bare. Anyways, moving on, he also produced An Officer and a Spy for Roman Polanski. The screenplay was written by Rosalind Bosch. She wrote a number of French films like My Summer in Provence and another film that I thought had a funny title, Bimboland. The music was by Vangelis. Yep, he's back. Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire guy. Cinematography was by Adrian Biddle, who reteamed in this film from the previous film, Thelma and Louise. He also, of course, shot, like I mentioned last week, Judge Dredd, Event Horizon, Mummy, and V for Vendetta. This film was strangely edited by 5 people. William M. Anderson, who edited Gallipoli and Dead Poets Society with Peter Weir. Francois Bonneau worked with Cimino on Year of the Dragon and The Sicilian. Les Healy, who edited Croupier for Mike Hodges and was the assistant sound editor of Thelma and Louise and co-editor of Snatch by Guy Ritchie. Then you have another editor, Armin Minasian. He edited iRobot, Daredevil, RoboCop 2, and finally, Deborah Zeitman, who also edited RoboCop 2. 5 editors. Think about that. Think about the structure of this film. It's actually very straight along the line narrative. So there's no jumping back and forwards in time that much. There is a narrator who's kind of reading over his father's life. It's his son kind of telling the story of his father. But there's really no jumping back and forth in time. So I don't really understand why you needed 5 editors. And you might have wanted to add a 6th editor to just cut out the rest of the crap. Because this movie has a lot of unnecessary plot points. Now on to the all-star cast. This includes Gerard Depardieu. He stars as Christopher Columbus, and he was in The Last Metro, The Woman Next Door with Francois Truffaut, and a bunch of French films. Then you also got Armand Assante as Gabrielle Sanchez. He was in Q&A with Sidney Lumet. He was in Judge Dredd. He was in the Odyssey mini-series, which I loved at the time. Then you got Sigourney Weaver. She's back. Aliens, Alien 3, Ghostbusters. You got Fernando Rey. He was in The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie and French Connection 1 and 2. You got Michael Wincott. He was the bad guy in The Crow, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And this guy, Mr. Wincott, I'm sorry to say this, but you make a great villain. You just got the face for it, sir. Then you get Checky Cario as Martin Alonso Pinzon. He was in GoldenEye and Kiss of the Dragon. I really like him. He's a really good actor. Kevin Dunn as Captain Mendes. Now, this is a cameo, not even a cameo, but a supporting role that if you blink, you're going to miss. But he is great in this film, Kevin Dunn. He is actually the dad in Transformers 1 through 3, and he's in Unstoppable as the mean manager that fights against Rosario Dawson, but he's great. He's a really great character actor. Then you got Frank Langella as Louis de Santangel. I don't even know how to say that. Anyways, he was previously in The Ninth Gate, Superman Returns, Starting Out in the Evening, Frost Nixon. And finally, you have Arnold Vosloo as Hernando de Guevara. He was in The Mummy Returns, and even Blood Diamond. Now, this guy, he was the mummy in The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. He's a great, fun character actor. Always kind of shows up as the big bad, but he's really good in this film as well, although he has a limited role. Now, a new section I kind of want to get into is the Ridley Scott collaborations. Now he's actually starting to collaborate more and more with the same crew, primarily. So Adrian Biddle is back. This is his second film as the cinematographer. You got Vangelis, second film. And Les Healy is actually the second time working for Ridley Scott. Now, the first time was in Thelma and Louise, and she was the assistant sound editor. So just kind of swapped positions, but it's good to see him starting to collaborate with people that he's starting to trust. But who knows? The next movie, maybe a completely new team. Who knows? We'll find out next week. Anyways, Wife's Corner. Like I say every week, we hope to have her on one episode sooner or later. And I'm hoping that will be sooner. But Wife's Corner, my wife is very quite insightful. She enjoyed the film, but saw Columbus's main flaw as his pride. He didn't even take time to learn the language of the natives. Instead, he just sought out his own gains and titles without realizing that to be a leader, you also have to serve. Actually, not many leaders know that. So that's going to be a recurring theme in life, folks. So just get prepared for that. Anyways, let's move on to the themes of the film. We're going to go step by step as we do every week. Number 1, empowered female characters. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, the queen has got to be the most powerful woman in all of Spain. And let's be honest, she is pretty awesome. She's played by Sigourney Weaver. She goes behind the backs of her own advisors. Although, at the same time, she knows she owes money to a banker, so she wants gold. But it costs her money to send Columbus on his way as well. But she has the power, so she still allows Columbus to set sail on his expedition. She does seem very wise and kind, but strong-willed throughout the film. And at the end of the day, she gets the final say, which I think is really cool, especially during this time. This is the 1400s. So normally you'd listen to a king or whatnot, but this queen, she's something else. And Sigourney Weaver plays her real well. Ding, ding, ding. So, next up, nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. Ding, ding, ding. Guys, he's going to a new undiscovered land. Nothing has been discovered. And he's going on a boat, a big boat with lots of people, but a boat nonetheless. Ever heard of tsunamis, hurricanes, typhoons, etc.? Yeah, not sure if I could do that back in 1492 because you're probably going to die or get scurvy or something on the boat. Again, this is one of the things that was sort of lacking in the film. They didn't show any big tsunamis, hurricanes, typhoons, or any real struggles except for a bunch of guys getting sunburned and really struggling, to move the boat forward. Again, nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. He continues to explore this idea, and it's always gonna be there. Number 3, the only way to survive is to adapt. Ding, ding, ding. This is pretty much Columbus's undoing. He didn't actually try to adapt to the people that he was taking over. Rather, he was trying to impose his will. And because of that, he's hoping they will adapt to him and his way of life. And because of that, he just loses everything. And he's actually sent back to Spain to go to prison. And, if you know the film, there's a lot of struggles in between. He wants his brothers to come help him lead. But at the end of the day, no one is really interested except for the power-hungry, rich bourgeoisie that decided to come along. And Columbus doesn't even give them a chance to do anything. So they cause a mutiny. And because of that, one of them decides to commit suicide, which is Michael Wincott's Moxica's character. He jumps off a cliff, and that causes an uproar in Spain, which causes them to change leaders. They take Columbus home to Spain, and they put someone else in charge of the puppet government. So he loses everything. And if you only learn to adapt and really kind of learn how to lead, he might have stayed a little longer. Who knows? Next up, number 4, age does not mean a thing. And this one's kind of iffy, but I'll try to do it. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, I think the queen looks younger than both Columbus and Sanchez, but that's probably because she's just beautiful and has great skin. And guess what? Columbus's young son survived. But in this film, experience is actually the key. Columbus needs to know how to negotiate and even seduce the queen to make her sympathize for him. Most of these guys are older. Columbus is primarily youthful in spirit. He's been trying to do this for a long time. So his passion is actually what gets the queen to allow him this opportunity. Not just the passion, but at one point she says, he's the only person that's not afraid of me. So he kind of gains her respect through that. So age does not mean a thing. It's a little iffy, but we'll go with it. Number 5, do not trust rich people. Ding, ding, ding. Or, this is just a thing that just keeps showing up, not just in Ridley Scott films, but primarily in Ridley Scott's films. This is a huge theme. For example, the Queen sent him on the journey, but she actually got the money from Gabrielle Sanchez. Now, Gabrielle Sanchez is kind of like the treasurer of Spain at the time. And this guy repeatedly begins to stab Columbus in the back. Now, Gabrielle Sanchez is wonderfully played by Armand Assante, and I love Armand Assante in this role. He's so charismatic, and he's so cold-blooded. Like, he'll go behind Columbus's back and just backstab him over and over again. But so, for example, when Columbus chooses who will help him lead in the new colonies, he chooses his brothers rather than Francisco de Bobadilla, a guy who Gabrielle trusts a great deal and wants to put in charge as a puppet ruler for Gabrielle, instead of just having Columbus rule everything himself. Gabrielle always wants to have someone that he trusts to run things, because in a sense, Gabrielle doesn't trust Columbus because he doesn't understand who Columbus really is. Columbus is about the passion of exploration. He's about the passion of creating something new, finding something new. Gabrielle sees that as something that's going to get in the way of his own power. And there's many instances of this distrust that continues to build and build. Number 6, violence don't solve a thing, brains do. Ding, ding, ding. Columbus does not get the Queen to respect him through violence. He does it through discourse, intellect, and charm. Moxica does not get to rule the new lands. Instead, he commits suicide and drives Spain to send someone to the new lands to take Columbus's rule away, because in essence, he was trying to show that Columbus apparently couldn't handle his own people or his own vassals on this new land. So he stages a mutiny, and at the end of the day, he realizes he's going to lose the mutiny. He commits suicide, and he's got enough proof right then and there. He even uses the natives to backstab Columbus. And the way to do that is Columbus never learned about their culture, didn't even care about their culture. So that's a huge thing, and that goes back to the only way to survive is to adapt. So there you go. Happy wife, happy life. In this case, Columbus was never married, but he still has 2 kids, one of which is with a woman he loves. The other is with someone, we never learn about, actually. He's a free-spirited guy. He doesn't want to be locked down. I mean, look at him. He's an explorer. But the lady he loves decides to stay with him, and she's happy, so he must be doing something right. Wink, 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 if you know what I mean. Anyways, moving forward, distrust of authority. Ding, ding, ding. Again, this goes back to even the rich people. I think we can almost consolidate these points, because throughout the film, Columbus fights against multiple authority figures, including those that do not deserve to be in their respective positions. I think a very important line he has in the film is, he says, "I did it, you didn't." So he's pretty much talking to Gabrielle, saying, you know why you don't understand, or you'll never understand me? Because I did it and you didn't. And this is in context with the whole exploration and the whole creation of the city over there, the new colony that he's built, pretty much. And that's just him chastising those in power, because he was willing to sacrifice and go out there to explore, while others just, paid him money to do it. And not just that, there were intellectual authorities that didn't want to even try this expedition, and they called him a lunatic, and they didn't even want to let the Queen hear about this journey. Strangely, it was Gabrielle Sanchez that originally supported him and said, you should talk to the Queen. Later on, Sanchez realized that, Columbus could be a risk. He could be a threat to my power. So there you go. Next up, money is coveted. Ding, ding, ding. This is always the case. The only way for him to do his expedition is to get financing, or else he would have never been able to discover what he did. He needed a patron, and he got one in the Queen. Next up, Battle of the Sexes. Again, there's less of that in this film, especially since the Queen outmatches everyone else. And as I mentioned before, the Queen actually states that she allows Columbus to travel because he's not afraid of her, and she respects that. So maybe it's kind of a tie. This is the first film where they actually agree with each other. The sexes are agreeing with each other, and it's a win-win. So let's move on. Do not trust robots / androids. Nope, none of that in this film. Anyways, let's move on to my favorite shots of the film. I'm going to start with 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Credit scroll. It's been a while, but of course, the producers of this film don't know if we know the history of Columbus. So there you go. You got a credit scroll. Now I'm going to jump forward a bit to 25 minutes and 18 seconds. This is a wonderful light. It's kind of like the light that we've been seeing visually in Black Rain. It's been there in Blade Runner, where the light is shining through a window and the Queen is sitting in front of it. But it's not really highlighting the Queen, but it just empowers the shadows around her. And it's just a really beautiful shot. 25 minutes and 58 seconds. Now, this is the scene where Columbus is actually first meeting the Queen. And what I love about this scene is, at first, you don't ever see the Queen firsthand. Like, you don't see her face. But slowly she turns, and at 25 minutes and 58 seconds, you see the side profile. And this is your first view of Sigourney Weaver as the Queen. At 36 minutes and 3 seconds, you have all three ships. They're setting sail. The sky, it's kind of like a sun setting or a sunrise. I don't remember which one, but you see like the orange hue of the sun, and the ships are all darkened because the sunlight is in front of them. So it's kind of like the same shot you get in Black Rain. For some reason, I'm going back to Black Rain on this film, in terms of shots at least. At 50 minutes and 44 seconds, the fog lifts and you see land for the first time. At 52 minutes and 47 seconds, slow motion Columbus. He be jumping off the ship, running in slow motion, trying to get that sand in his shoes. 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 11 seconds. This is a tracking shot into the village. I just love tracking shots, so I just put that in there. 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 33 seconds. Now, this is the mutiny that I was talking about with Moxica. And what's happening is he's gotten all of the native, not all of them, but a group of natives to attack Columbus and attack the colonies so that they can pretty much take over their lands again. And this is really cool because a native is running at Columbus and he stabs him. And this very moment is when he stabs him. 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 33 seconds. 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 13 seconds. Moxica realizes he's got to do a suicide fall so that Columbus will fall. So he jumps, and that's what happens. 2 hours, 1 minute, and 33 seconds. Now, this is that Hitchcock shot where it's kind of like that vertigo shot, and it's into the church. There's a newly built church, and they have this really cool Hitchcock shot towards the church. At 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 17 seconds, a storm arrives, and there's sort of like a time lapse in editing in the sky, and you just see the church and the storm and the sky just moving forward. 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 40 seconds, lightning strikes the church right at that moment. 2 hours, 5 minutes, 19 seconds, the doors blow open, and this storm is just blowing everything around Columbus, and it's crazy. And the lighting is like a strobe effect. It's really psychedelic. 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 8 to 9 seconds, lightning hits across and it explodes in flame. Right at that moment, the lightning hits. Right at that moment. Okay, 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 41 seconds. Columbus has been sent back to Spain. He's in prison, and his sons bail him out, and he has one more wish. So he goes back to the queen, and he asks her permission to have one last voyage. And at 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 41 seconds, she allows him that one moment. At 2 hours and 18 minutes and 20 seconds, he says the line, "I did it, you didn't." This is just a message between, or a conversation between Columbus to Sanchez. And you see Sanchez knows he's right. Sanchez knows that all he is the money man. And he hasn't really ever done anything. He's only supported things. So I think that's very important. 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 12 seconds. Sanchez and this intellectual dude, they're talking, and the intellectual dude is pretty much saying, Columbus, he's going to be forgotten in time. And Sanchez actually backs Columbus up, and he says, if anyone remembers our name, it's only going to be because of him. So he's basically saying, shut the fuck up. Anyways, moving forward, 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 53 seconds. His son is writing this memoir about Columbus's life. And this is a close-up of his eyes as he closes his eyes. And throughout the film, Columbus gets older and older and older. And at this moment, he's got a lot of wrinkles. And this is a close-up of his eyes right when he says, I remember. Now, at 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 19 seconds, you get a closing scroll. And it kind of just explains the end of Columbus's journeys, his final journeys, and the end of his life. Now, I didn't get into too many plot details, of course, but as you know, Columbus went to the new land, and in this case, it was some islands off of Southern America. He never made it to the mainland, or maybe he did later on, but at the beginning, he didn't make it to the mainland. And the guy who actually discovered America was this guy named Amerigo Vespucci, I guess. I didn't really research that, but this is what the film says. And, it's just interesting because there's a lot of heartbreak. Now, next week, we got another water film, strangely. He's really getting into the water, guys. He really likes the oceanic adventures. And the next film is called White Squall with Jeff Bridges. So, guys, it's time to go find the film. And unfortunately, the only place I know where to get it is iTunes. And you know how much that costs? $17.99. And is it worth it? I don't even know. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. But I remember liking it. And I remember there's a big storm, and $14.92 could have used a big storm. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.